April 27th, 2022. I had trouble with my memory this morning. Lynn's legs hurting her. We were out of our routine. Usually we have a regimen. Things usually go smoothly. I forgot the baby's school bag. So Lou was kind enough. By the time I got home, just having this discussion with Linda, it's like when you're healthy and you're walking through the environment, you tend to not really put too much thought into the sidewalk, the shuffle of the feet, the breathing, the whatever. But as the health starts to deteriorate, it's looking at the sidewalk and the fact that it's slightly at an angle this way because you know you have to counterbalance it because of the knee joint and the muscles locking up around the knee joint and the hip and so on and so forth. Then the trying to catch the breath in the outside. So today was very difficult. I came home to get this book bag, and normally in in a normal body machine and body mechanic, even 10 years ago, I would have jogged back up and back. It would have just been a slight blip on the morning, whatever. But now it is so drastically different. I mean, I had to actually sit down to recover from the walk, which is not a very long walk, but the air is so hard to, my lungs were burning at one point. It's just the oxygenation level's not the same, and the body mechanics are not are not working the same. It's almost like gravity is extreme. I reported this when I was little as well. When I first, not first started walking, but when my grandfather would walk me to school, some days my legs would just be very heavy, even back then in the 80s. Now it's just so much worse. And so Lewis he drives me to drop the school bag off, and then takes me to Panera Bread. Now, Panera Bread, we sit down, and inside of this particular facility, I don't know if it's the radio wave frequency of the lights, or if he blamed, again, the human conversation, just human. I know nothing else. It's just dad and daughter adoringly looking at her father, wanting him to think of him like he really did superhero best her whole life. That's how I want the breakfast to go. And he's kind enough to buy me a coffee and a bagel. So I sit there, and it's all about him, which is fine because I have nothing to contribute because I look at things totally different. So I'm in the humanness with him, in his human conversation. And I was just there. He had questions, I had answers, and I just leave it at that. But in the silence between when he would make a conversation with me, I was observing him, and then him in comparison to some of the other patrons that were down in Bay Terrace. I was watching how he and I were just father-daughter, and then there were groups of, or clusters of men and women who were meeting there for breakfast and whatever. I was looking at the layer, the tapering of the cloth and the clothing, and comparing. A lot of people have this light outerwear, North Face and fleece type things. There's very few with trousers, like my grandfather's age, any longer. A lot of jeans, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of watching that benchmark. I'm watching how everything looks really like you rolled out of bed because it is just so difficult to move or even take care of oneself as a large group, and then put on whatever has been in your closet for. They're not new cloth. They're not new clothing on any of the people that were in there. It looked like it had been through the washing machine many, many moons. Which is fine when you talk about like the ecology of things and holding on to clothing and things, but socioeconomics. But for health, public health standards, the fact that everybody looks so, not wasted, but so tired. It is so much effort to move, to try to even, I mean, to make it through the day, honestly. One guy I heard say that he made it to breakfast with his friends and he was already thinking of going home to take a nap. I mean, this is not how body mechanics works. This is not like this old adage like, well, they're old. No, they're not old. I'm not old. But this is the way that the local area is being hit with something that is changing the alchemy between physiology and the atmosphere and our ability to move within time and space. I mean, is such a it, and I don't know where it's coming from. Some outside, unbeknownst force. Second to that, I'm thinking of the movie yesterday being MIB, which is the one from 2019 with Chris Hemsworth. Hemsworth. And Liam Neeson. And that light thing that they do. Now, I've made note in my journal about, I call it tactical lighting. I don't know what that, they call that thing, I think a neurologer or something, where the light goes and then you totally forget whatever. Well, to me, it reminds me of outside that window. Like that level of light makes is almost like tactical lighting where it makes it difficult. Not only are you in the low respiration oxygenation, so your body mechanics starts to break down due to low oxygen hypoxia. I also am suffering from anemia, but then you've got these high levels, this level of lighting, which is almost like neurologically damaging or like an interference. So if, I mean, and I don't know what level sunglasses one would need. I don't know who to ask for that. Like, that's the level of doctor that I need as a friend. So this way I could investigate and curiosity with as like a rover. But I don't even know where to find somebody like that intelligent. I mean, it's not like they just walk out on the streets. Usually they're setting their importance somewhere. So anyway, so I'm thinking about the level of lights and how that could interfere and interact with the body functioning within here. Because Lewis even said, he's like, I feel very foggy. And in his humanness, he's like, I took some NyQuil last night before bed because he wasn't feeling well. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, NyQuil really, they took out those ingredients supposedly, like, that would give you that foggy feeling the next day. But even sitting in Panera, something between the lighting schematic and the music, the sound of the music that they put on. Now, Panera is a franchise. It's like an Applebee's. It's like a Macy's. It's like a, I want to say Fridays, Chili's, one of those. But the music this morning was so foul. It was like it was like acid in the ear. It was whiny and it was absolutely horrible. Um, and so there was that, just background noise. Then there was the lights, which were in a weird configuration, along with the light coming through the windows, which is already neurologically like dislodging me from concentration levels that I'm normally used to being with. Um, and I'm looking at Lou having this small talk conversation. I see his eyes, his irises are really, really large with his glasses. Um, Reminded me of some of the children's movies that I've seen before that reference that when you wear almost those magnifying glasses as glasses. Um, but on like a bar or benchmark of ability to maintain like a, not grooming, but like the clothing in this area, you know, you hold on to it for many, many years. You put it through the washing machine, and however it wears is how you wear it. Um, but the going through the daily task of having to get up and trying to fit into and whatnot is starting to become much more difficult. I got up at 4:50 a.m. this morning to try to see the last to try to see the day with Nucci with the planets aligned and the walking of the planets. But he and I checked the back of the house and the front of the house, and it was so cloudy that we did not wind up going outside because the cloud cover was so thick we couldn't see past it to see planets. So that was disappointing. But again, there's something in the area. It's something to do with, on one level, radio frequency for the lighting schematic that the retail franchises have bought into, whether it be their light bulbs, I don't know, but they run off of radio frequency. But being in that moment with him this morning, it was so difficult just to carry a thought and like, I mean, I was in quiet observation and I can interact with him just fine because it's so small talk. There's no, I don't know. It's just whatever. It's just meager and it's whatever I'm used to in interaction. But it was very sad because I was probably one of the youngest in the environment. But I am just as pained or muscular dystrophed in like a dysfunction of asymmetry, and dystrophy, in almost an atrophy, like a slow onset of atrophy in some tropic, I don't know what. And around me, I can see like wear and tear on not only the humans, but on like I even said to Lou, I'm like, what do you think about this music? Because it's horrible. I'm like when did this happen? Like when did these small atmospheric nuances, when did they unravel so badly that in your local, the place where you spend the most amount of time, in your neighborhood, in your safe place, in your safety zone, that you don't even have control over the music being tolerable? I mean, it is just, then don't put music on if it's going to be so, it is just horrible. It's almost like you just feel like you don't have, I mean, people talk about personal freedoms. It feels, yes, there was personal freedom to get up this morning and to get Nucci to school, but it really wasn't freedom because I struggled every minute of of physicality trying to muster up enough energy to get him there, totally out of breath, riddled with pain, and then trying to recuperate and recover from whatever damage sustained on the way to and from his school just for a regular function. And now sitting here, trying to report what what the physical environment feels like in something that's really a strange phenomenon and really hard to explain. I mean, I have understudy work done from somebody who had a graduate degree and somebody who had field experience in genetics, and she had a, again, I don't have a I don't have a resume. I think it's the word that, I don't know if they call it dossier or resume of her precise qualifications, but she went over them for the learning institution that I was in, and she was the one who professed the level of education that she had pursued to bestow it upon my person while I was there, which then allows me to be able to document in some form or fashion at a little higher of a whatever, because this is so serious of a event going on, and I don't know how to appropriately document it. I tried living in Lou's world for a few minutes, listened to the radio program that has access and availability to. He listens to AM. I don't know what station on the AM, but it was something talking about batteries with GM or whatever. They were talking about Silverados and things, and some call-in person wanted to know specific chemical differences of the batteries, which the saleswoman just fluffed off that they just had these great whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, you won't talk about the chemistry on the radio because that's our government secrets and things in the chemistry compounds of those. But yet you, as humans, you take on all these foreign national students and allow them to study chemistry, compounds, the language, the words, and work in these and open up these laboratory facilities inside the whatever. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me how it's gotten this far and why nobody's intervened and said, no, you may not study inside of the United States of America, or no, you may not study, I mean, you may not do foundational work, residency work, whatever, because we have to have interior government secrecy, like, and patents and recipes and our own trademark. But instead it feels like, I mean, people are just coming and going, studying whatever, and generationally it's just like totally blown out of proportions. It's so frustrating. So this is where I am. And I'm somewhere on this at the moment. And it is really painful to be human and even try to stand up at this point, with whatever's going on with magnetics and frequency. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. Just one last thing. The reason why I mentioned the clothes is, like, this zipper's broken on this, but I still wear it because it's still an overcoat, and it's one of the only things I own. But it's been through the washing machine, and it's been with me in the field for maybe the last 6, 7, maybe upward of 7 years. I've seen just recently on some of the television stations, like some of the golfers or some of the tennis stars or pros, like they look like they just opened a brand new machine sealed bag and put that uniform on to enter wherever the camera was going to capture them. In the real world, because they live in some like hyper society of like I don't know who, where, or what, but in the real world, like where I am, there's, I mean, getting new clothes is, I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't have money. That's again where Title IX's been violated under US standards. Yeah. I wasn't offered this pathway to success through college or through graduate program or mastery program or any of those. But a whole lot of people were. And now I'm trying to figure out, as my health is deteriorating, exactly who and how the state is even organized or the local area is organized, because people don't walk around with on their lapel of whom they are, what and who do you address for which part of the brokenness of outside. Because what's plaguing me is more of an aerospace design mechanic that I can feel I'm encountering problems with disparages, and it's not, it feels like it's not in like a qubit volume. It's not consistent. There are holes in its ability to hold energy apparatus like in a solid format. I don't even have words to describe it, but I've drawn pictures of it in more of like a Leonardo da Vinci kind of a way. Anyway, it's April, what's today? 27th, 2022. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.